Group D, BATV2, Educate, Employ, Empower, 26 of the 11th, 2012. Run through take 1.
Hello and welcome to Educate, Employ, Empower, the show that will really get to the bottom of the issues surrounding student finance and youth unemployment. I am your host Jasper Taylor and this is my colleague Charlotte Foote.
Good afternoon all. On today's show we have 3 guests, each discussing their side of the argument. First, we have Councillor Michael Weinhennig discussing and answering questions about student finance. Later, we will talk about the Demo 2012 demonstration and we will have a discussion with Councillor Andrew Morgan, as well as Subu Vice President Ruby Limbrick, about youth unemployment and the general issues that are at the heart of Demo 2012.
Last week, we went around campus asking students and lecturers to express their thoughts towards changed student fees. Let's see what they had to say.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me, but I think if people have to pay £9 then you're only going to get the people that are really interested in studying. So people are going to be a lot more dedicated to their course because they have to pay more money.
My views on the student fees is that if it's worth it for the course, then I fully understand it. I can see why many people would object to it. But in terms of how I personally feel, I'm happy to pay that money for the course because it's a very well-rewarding course and it's for my career opportunities in the future. So yeah, I think I'm not too bothered about it. I think it's all right.
Well, I think my opinion is the rise in student fees has an impact on students paying the fees, but it has no difference to the universities because basically it's the government shifting the fees from their coffers out of students' pockets.
I don't think it's fair, the rise in tuition fees. Everyone has a right to education. It shouldn't be a market where people have to pay a certain amount of money. So I think everyone has a right to it. If it isn't free, then it should be as cheap as possible for students.
I think it's absolutely appalling that any student should have to pay any money at all. I went on the march against the initial instigation of the fees. I went on a march against the rise of the fees. I think any government is mad that thinks that students are going to pay £27,000 plus all the rest for education. Education should be free with health. I'm angry.
Well, we certainly got some strong opinions there. And now we are joined by Bournemouth Councillor Michael Weinhennig. Michael, thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Can you agree with some of those opinions expressed?
I can empathise with them and I can feel very strongly for not only the students but also their families and the problems they must face to try and get through university and pay for it ultimately. But I think what's also most important is, can they get a job after university?
And can you give us a bit of background as to why the tuition fees have risen so much in recent years?
Sadly, we're faced with a period of austerity, saddled with a huge amount of debt from a previous government, and for whatever reason we'd like to say about that. But first and foremost, it's not just students that are affected by this. We've got pensioners. We as councillors have had a pay freeze for the past 4 years. Most people in the public sector, and the private sector for that matter, have had to take pay cuts as well. So we're all in this together, but the real reason is austerity.
And do you believe that there's a positive future for students, or do you believe it could get worse?
I think it'll get worse before it gets better, excuse me. But positive things that businesses can do is to help sponsor those students who are perhaps the most disadvantaged and need help. These are avenues perhaps where we can encourage those and the most vulnerable to try and get into higher education. But I really can't see it getting better in a very short space of time. Things will change, I think, in education, and certainly looking at some of the ideas that have been put forward by Demo 2012 regarding the progressive graduate contribution. Those are some of the ideas that perhaps could be embraced in the future.
So if they're not going to improve anytime soon, do you think that Conservative Party are perhaps worried that they're going to lose a whole generation of voters in the students?
I hope not. And I think if we look recently at the Police Crime Commissioner elections, where we had less than 20% turnout, one could say, you know, people are disenfranchised, they don't feel engaged in politics. Yet, they can pick up the phone on a Saturday night, vote for Strictly Come Dancing or I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And I feel it's a travesty that we can't take time during our busy lives to perhaps spend an hour or two every year to just clue up on politics and gauge. I don't believe we're going to lose a generation of voters. What I do hope is it will actually encourage people to vote and to engage, and as Demo 2012 is doing, to continue lobbying. You've got to be in there to do something about it, I think.
And what are local governments, particularly in Bournemouth, doing to help students out?
Well, we believe that we have a brain drain at the moment. Too many students are going through Bournemouth University and not actually finding jobs locally. So we're actually making a difference there. We're creating apprenticeships with our partnership with Mouchel at Bournemouth Council. We're going to have one of the hubs for a green environment and a carbon-free culture as far as that's concerned. But we've got a lot of initiatives within the council to employ in the future, and we need students to actually fill those posts. So I think a lot of this is down to businesses and entrepreneurs to actually encourage and sponsor more students and to get engaged in this sort of thing as well. You are our future and we need you.
And briefly, do you think central government are doing enough as well to help these students?
At the moment, I would probably agree that we're perhaps not doing as much as we could, but education is a priority. The fact that we can't unlock more money to give people, to give students a free education is obvious, but we are doing our best and it's certainly a priority.
Michael, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
As we move on to the next part of the show, we would like to thank Michael, as Jasper just said there, for coming and joining us today. Now, our show is called Educate, Employ and Empower for a reason. We want to talk to you all about the Demo 2012 event that the National Union of Students, with Liam Burns as their leader, organised. They invited students from all over the UK to march and send a message to the government: educate, employ and empower.
The National Union of Students organised an event called Demo 2012, which took place on Wednesday the 21st of November. The message of this event is educate, employ and empower, and thousands of students were marching through central London trying to deliver this message to the government. Guest speaker Aled Jones gave an empowering speech for the people at the event.
Thousands of students took to the streets in 2010, and do you know what they did? They gave hope and they gave confidence to others, to working people who said, if they can fight back, then we can fight back too. And that is our role today as well.
Demo 2012 stood for three things. Education. They are demanding a properly funded education system accessible to all. Employment. Students and graduates need fair work and fair pay. Sustainable jobs are necessary for building blocks for the sustainable future. And empowerment. Students in NUS want to create a movement that will catch attention of the government and actually make politicians want to make some changes. According to official Demo 2012 website, the student movement was built on the value of democracy, equality and collectivism.
I'm here because I want a better future for our generation. We need better employment. Nearly 1 million people in the UK are currently unemployed in the youth, and I think this demonstration is trying to help improve the economy, improve education systems, employment and empowerment.
Well, I think that this was both a continuation of the earlier struggle against tuition fees and for free education that people took part in tremendously over the last few years, especially 2010. And also, since then, a wider fight against austerity generally, where people are being asked to pay the price for a crisis that isn't of their choosing.
After the event, NUS President Liam Burns said, "It was amazing. Thank you to everyone that came out to march on the streets, and all others that supported online, but the campaign is not over yet."
Now we're joined by Subu Vice President of Campaigns, Ruby Limbrick, and another councillor from the Conservative Party, Andrew Morgan. Ruby was a key person in organising Bournemouth University students to go to Demo 2012. Good afternoon to you both.
Hi.
Ruby, can you first of all just begin by sharing your experiences of the event with us?
Yeah, so back in October, we put the demo forward as a motion at our Student Shout, which is our termly meeting where students get together to discuss different issues. There was a lot of debate discussing the pros and cons of going to the demo. Some students were for it, others were against it. And after we'd had a discussion and a debate, we put it to a vote and the majority of students were in favour. So we worked very closely with the full-time officers at AUCB to organise a coach to take students to the demo. The demo itself went really well, despite the downpour towards the end. It wasn't too fun, but we're really, really proud of all of our students and those across the country for demonstrating peacefully.
And what do you think Demo 2012 tried to achieve?
So Demo 2012 is called Educate, Employ and Empower, and it's organised by the NUS, as you said earlier. We were lobbying basically for a fairer education, and I would hope that the government could see that it's really, really important to us, and hopefully it's a positive step forward to a better future for students.
I was going to say, do you think it was a success?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I hope so. I hope that the government could see that it is really important to us, and that it could be a positive step forward in the future.
Andrew, if we could bring you in now, were you familiar with the Demo 2012 event?
Not as familiar as I had been with previous student demonstrations like the one in 2010, which attracted so much media attention. This one seemed to me to be much more low-key, both in the way it was reported on the day and then in the days thereafter. It didn't seem to be picked up in the mainstream media to any great extent.
So do you think that the campaign achieved its aims despite not having perhaps as much media publicity?
I think it may have achieved its aims in the longer term of getting more students talking about this issue, and frankly I think it's good that students are prepared to go out and march for a cause that they passionately believe in.
And we've just got a few statistics here. 1 million young people are unemployed right now. 42,000 Londoners have been put off applying to university at all. Do you think that there's going to be a decrease of people applying to university?
I don't think those two things actually go together. Many more people are deciding that perhaps university is not for them and are doing that as a positive choice. I was reading an interview with the boss of British Aerospace who said that they're actually attracting many more school leavers who go into sort of high-spec engineering from school. Some of them have now worked up to be senior engineers and they've actually taken the university route out. That may be right for some people, whereas university is right for others.
Yeah, and 11% of students who have chosen university have then gone on to drop out because of financial problems. Is there anything the government can do to help support students more, do you think, while they're in education?
I accept it must be very, very difficult for students. I mean, I'm somebody who was lucky enough to receive a student grant in the 80s, and I know it's very different now. I think perhaps universities could do more to structure their courses so that students are able to have jobs to fit around their lectures and tutorials.
And Ruby, just to bring you back in, do you believe that the Demo 2012 was the first step in a fairer, brighter future for students?
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't really say, but like I said before, I would hope that the government could see this as a positive step forward. And I hope, like I said, that many students getting together for something that they're passionate about obviously shows that it's important for students for this to be a priority and for the future of students and their education.
And I think we'd all agree that the statistics that Jasper just mentioned there are particularly shocking and have an effect not only on students but also on their parents and their relatives. Andrew, do you think the Conservatives are in real danger of losing power and losing votes from, not just students but, other members of the electorate?
The Conservatives are entirely focused on having a balanced economy where this country pays its way, and we want to have a world-class education system because that's the only way we can compete with the likes of India and Singapore where they are educating people to an extremely high level. We've got a fantastic entrepreneurial spirit in this country which we can gather that and proceed and prosper.
Okay, Ruby, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you to both our guests, and also a big thank you to Michael earlier for joining us. We hope today that we have answered some of your questions on Demo 2012, and if you would like to learn any more, then visit demo2012.co.uk or gov.co.uk. From Jasper and myself, thank you for watching.
Thank you and goodbye.